Jamil Javani is going to Washington, D.C. to secure a trade deal with the United States of America. I'm going to play some key moments from the video he uploaded talking about this, and then afterwards I'll share some additional information and some commentary. His video will be linked below if you want to check it out yourself.
I'm on my way to Washington, D.C., and I want to explain to you, the Canadian people, exactly why, because you're probably going to hear about it. I'm going to Washington because I want to help Prime Minister Mark Carney be successful in negotiating a trade deal with the United States. But the reality is that this is not a partisan issue. CUSMA and trade with the United States is so important to the Canadian economy and to our future as an independent, self-reliant nation that Conservatives and Liberals don't need to fight over this at all. In fact, we need to work together. The leader of the Conservative Party, Pierre Poilievre, has said as much. He has offered help from Conservatives to the Liberal government on this issue, and I'm acting on that. I'm kind of sick and tired of the politics on this issue. I'm sick and tired of the posturing and the virtue signaling. I'm sick and tired of people being worried about what someone's going to call you on Facebook or on social media comments, what the media might say. The reality is that there are people suffering right now in our country because of the state of our economy. And inasmuch as we want Canada to be as strong and independent as possible, the reality is that 3/4 of our exports go to the United States. And if we want an economy that is good for our young people, if we want an economy that supports public services for seniors in our communities, we've got to work with the Americans. There are people who've been running around this country for over a year now, talking about their elbows, flapping about. I just don't find that impressive. And as a guy who went to law school in the United States and has a strong network there, I think I have something to offer to help build bridges of communication between our two countries, and that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm alarmed when I see things like the talking about China and communist governments and doing more business with them. I get alarmed when I see announcements of electric vehicles now being imported into Canada while we have a crisis in our auto industry. I get alarmed in my home community when I see museums in Oshawa, like the Tank Museum or the Auto Museum, offering free admission to GM employees to do everything they can to just stand in solidarity with people whose lives have been turned upside down because of the economic uncertainty, the tariffs, and the lack of a good trade relationship with our biggest trading partner. I know what all the critics are going to say, and I know what all the frothing, elbow-waving, anti-American activists are about to say about me. But I just don't care. I care more about you. I care more about the Canadian people, the people who want a future in this country and know that we need serious leadership, the people who believe that you elect people to do what's right and to stand up for you and fight for you above any kind of partisanship. I think you deserve good leadership in this country, and I think you deserve people who are going to cut through all the noise, cut through all the posturing and the virtue signaling, and just try to deliver something good for you and your kids.
So the first thing that stood out to me when I was watching this video was the framing around how this is not a partisan issue and how we need to put talking to the side and start to deal with the actual matter, and how he's acting on the promise that the Conservatives have been putting out for the last little while, that they're willing to help the Prime Minister. But he's going down there for two reasons. One is obviously to get a trade deal done. I obviously believe that the Conservative Party of Canada is the only party that actually cares about getting a deal done. Otherwise, we would have one already. Because that's the thing about this whole trade deal situation. Donald Trump has already been buddying up and getting deals done with other countries. He's spoken highly of the leaders of Japan and Germany. He had that deal last year with the EU. So we know that this isn't a Donald Trump issue. This is a Canada issue. And not just a Canada issue, but a Mark Carney issue and a Liberal Party of Canada issue. Because so far it seems like this government has prioritized crapping all over the United States of America over getting a deal done. Honestly, Canadian Liberals have talked more smack about the US than Donald Trump ever has said to us. Just look on anywhere on social media. It's all there. And then on top of that, Carney goes and gets the deal done with China. Apparently, we're so focused on being angry and bitter with the United States and the silly orange man that we've completely cut off all communication and trade with the largest global superpower in the history of the world that happens to be our southern neighbor in favor of getting a deal done with a communist dictatorship all the way around the world. Logic. And the unfortunate news about that is that dictatorships don't exactly make deals for mutual benefit. And this is going to backfire in our face. Another thing that Javani brings up in this video that I thought was a good point to emphasize and honestly keep re-emphasizing, because apparently this is something the Liberal Party has completely forgotten about, is that the US makes up 75% of all of our trade. And despite what the Liberal Party likes to act like and where Mark Carney's experience is, Canada's not a company. It's not a corporation where you can just choose who you're going to buy and sell from at any given time. In fact, Canada is the storehouse for companies and corporations that choose where they're going to buy from and sell to at any given time. Because trade isn't really determined by government signing these big trade deals. It's determined by markets, by costs, and what makes sense for most businesses, where they should go and who they should buy from. And if the United States is doing better than us, then they're going to go that way. And if you live right next door to the largest superpower the world has ever seen, then business wants to go there, and no amount of trade deals you can sign is going to prevent that. And that's why every business, especially new businesses all around the world, want to go to the United States, because I'm a very patriotic Canadian, but the United States has the best market in the world right now for business. The only way to ensure that business stays in Canada, especially Canadian businesses, is to remove the tariffs that make it costly to stay here and instead rapidly industrialize, build up your own economy, start producing a lot more oil and natural gas, sell them to new partners, and then they will have an incentive to stay here. Carney keeps trying to sign these trade deals, but production is stagnant in Canada. He had that list last year of a few major nation building projects that he wanted to get done, but where are they? I haven't seen them. So these trade deals are only as good as the resources that you have to trade with. So if you don't have anything, then they're not that good, are they? Especially when they're with countries like Indonesia. No hate to Indonesia, but their trade only makes up like 3% of our overall trade. But not to fear, there is hope, because the great news about Javani going down there is that he actually has connections. Jamil Javani went to law school at Yale in the US, where he met, just a little somebody, the current vice president of the United States, and apparently they hit it off, because ever since then they have been really close friends. So this friendship actually makes getting a deal done with the US actually kind of possible for him, in a way that no other MP, not even Pierre Poilievre, would have been able to. But the second reason, and we just got to the second reason, is that the Conservatives are trying to prove to the swing voter, that group of undecideds you see on all those polls, that they're more than just a party of talk. Because I door knocked on the campaign last year, and a lot of the criticism was that, what have the Conservatives actually done? Which I think is a little disingenuous. But this is one of many ways, along with the proposal of the Canadian Sovereignty Act and the Stand Your Ground law, that the Conservatives are trying to reverse this message and show, hey, we have ideas and we're willing to work together on them, but it's the Liberals who keep shutting us down. Which brings me to another interesting clip, not of Javani, but of Mark Carney. This is how he responded in the House of Commons when he was asked his thoughts on Jamil Javani going to Washington, D.C.
We have extensive contacts with the U.S. administration, constant contacts with the U.S. administration. Minister LeBlanc gave a briefing to Mr. Javani, who I don't believe is the trade critic for the opposition, certainly not the Minister of International Trade, nor the Prime Minister.
So what do you think he's going to do?
I think it might have something to do with all of you.
I think overall this is a really good strategy for the Conservatives. The media is definitely, and you already start to see this. The media is definitely going to portray Jamil Javani as a reckless, wild conservative who's just going out on his own accord. But I don't think the majority of Canadians watch CBC anymore or the news. Sorry to say, it's a dying industry. Look at the numbers. And B, the ones that do are already liberals, typically liberal boomers. So I tend not to worry about the media too much. It'll be interesting to see how this pans out in terms of polling data. Overall, right now, as it stands, I don't think it'll have that much of an impact. Usually, these sort of big moves don't have typically big results, at least in the short term. It'll be in the long term when things start to get interesting. Because that's where timing comes into play. And timing is very, very important everywhere in life, pretty much. And right now, this timing is a perfect junction between Carney's growing and proven track record and the anticipation of a snap election this year. The swing voter, the average person, the people that make up that, again, undecided chunk of all those polls you see, those are the people that are watching. Those are the people that are looking. They've seen Carney's track record. They've seen him basically put his arms up in the air and say, I don't care, and no longer pursue a trade deal with the United States. They've seen him try and fail, get him on the phone, backstep, give him more stuff, lose, and fail again. And I don't think they're very happy. And so if, and it's a big if, and let me be very clear, this is a hypothetical, and I don't usually indulge in hypotheticals, but this one is particularly interesting to think about. If Jamil Javani gets this deal done, right? That is a very interesting spot for Mark Carney to be in. A very interesting spot. I mean, this can pan out one of many ways, right? I don't want to give false hope. It's there's a good way it can end and there's a bad way it can end, but I'm not worried. A, because God wins. But B, because I think the Conservatives have a lot of tricks up their sleeves. And it'll be interesting to see how things like this pan out. I have faith that things will go good for the Conservative Party of Canada, and this is one of those things. If you enjoyed today's video, you want to see some more like this, subscribe. It's free. You can change your mind later. And as always, have a great day.